Another new record in Toronto real estate. We're gonna hit $1 million average price by the end of the year. Stay tuned, promise you, it'll be worth it. It's a good one. Good day, Toronto. Welcome to another episode of Prime Property TV. So glad you could join me here today. Every week on Prime Property TV, we take a closer look at the Toronto real estate topics and updates that matter the most to you, okay? So in this week's episode, I'm gonna be breaking down the latest numbers that came out in August 2020 for the Toronto real estate market and how we're basically on track to break $1 million average price by the end of the year. Yeah, you heard me, $1 million average price. I'm not even kidding, not even clickbait. So if you want to get the inside track on real estate investing and information and to stay up to date on the market, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to the Prime Property channel. The button will be somewhere over here, okay? Now, at the end of August, the average price is at an all-time record high of about $951,000, give or take, okay? That's up 24% from last year, but you could ignore all of that because the numbers are basically kind of bogus because we're comparing it to a month from last year, okay? And I'll tell you why. Normally August isn't too active or too hot, and we're comparing a hot August 2020 right now versus a not very hot August 2019. It's not a really good comparison because August is the slowest month. So we're not comparing apples to apples. And this is exactly why on August I go on vacation. So this idea of prices increasing 20% from last year, bogus, ignore it. But what I will draw on that is the fact that since May 2020, prices have been increasing, okay? The proverbial bottom from COVID-19 was March and April, which saw a price drop of about 10% more or less. But since May, we've been up 15%, okay? Nuts. So that means we've recovered from COVID and surpassed it, hence new records every single month on pricing. So at this rate, you must think we're gonna fly right by $1 million on average price, but we're not that crazy, okay? When the market started to pick up in the latter half of 2019 last year, the last 4 months we saw an increase of price of about 5.88%, okay? Which is topped off by the fall. So for us right now, to break $1 million, we're gonna need to see only 5.2%, which is less than that 5.88. And all basically that comes down to is 1.35%, give or take, a month, and we'll hit it. I think that's totally doable based on how the market's behaving right now. However, there's one thing you have to factor in, which is the mortgage deferrals. They're coming to an end at September 30th, and no one knows how much inventory is going to come on the market and whether it's going to affect prices. If you want to hear me talk about that in a more detailed analysis, there's a little click on that video. I made an entire long podcast about it, okay? So make sure you check that out. It's very good, okay? Now, as you know, when comparing, stats, it's always good to compare like apples to apples. And we can't just look at, the year versus year because that's really all the media headline talks about because that's how Treb sends it out. You need to add context to these numbers, okay? So the most important number I always look at is the inventory number, okay? Because that dictates price. And instead of comparing, from this year on this month to last year in this exact same month, it makes more sense for us to compare the year as a whole, okay? Because 2020 has kind of been an eventful COVID-19, right? So 2019 was a very, very strong rebound year, meaning it was getting stronger. And to date, we saw about 112,000 listings and 60,000 sales, or about 1.86 months of inventory, okay? Which is a very strong seller's market. In 2020, we saw less listings, about 100,000, and less sales, about 58,000, but the months of inventory was 1.73, which means there's more demand for property based on the amount of available than we had last year during a year with a pandemic. This is why prices are increasing so rapidly, right? Because when September 30th comes along and deferral ends, are we going to get enough supply to thirst to quench and the demand? Who knows, right? No one can predict it. Like, my guess is that for freehold properties, no, not enough supply. Condos, maybe, yes. Okay, allow me to explain. Toronto, in the month of August, we saw about 4,500 listings in condos, 1,500 sales, or approximately 3 months of inventory. This is a very, very high number for Toronto standards, okay? We're normally like 2. The highest months of inventory, just from a data point for you, was, as a whole market, it was April 2020 during peak COVID-19, and we're at 3.55. So for condos, we have 3 is very high, okay? It means that condos aren't moving that quickly, and it's closer to a balanced market than it is a seller's market, hence prices may come down. So the question I'm getting asked a lot is, are condos cheaper now? And the answer is yes and no, okay? Like with all data points, it really depends on how you look at it and what data you're comparing it to, okay? So as an example, if I compared condo prices from right now, okay, to August 2019, which the media outlets are all doing, Condo prices are up 8.7%. Very good, okay? From 620 to about 673,000. Very substantial. But if you look at prices for the year, like I was saying, because there's fluctuations, the peak condo prices was 723 in February, and we have dropped to 673,000, or dropped 6.8%. So the answer becomes yes and no, depending on when you're comparing it. Now, the months of inventory in February 2020 was close to 1. It's tripled now, hence prices are dropping. But they're still higher than last year, okay? So with the whole buyer idea psychology trying to leave high rises and condos, we see a lot more inventory come to the market for condos. So you could see prices drop a bit more. So my question is, buying opportunity, anyone? It's just like the stock market dip in March when COVID hit, right? It's an opportunity, just whether you're gutsy enough to believe in the long-term future of the downtown core properties. I personally do. Now, on the flip side of the coin, we can talk about the freehold properties, okay? This segment of the market is just completely bonkers seller's market, okay? From the month of August, we had 2,200 listings or so, but we had 1,500 sales, which means we're at 1.42 months of inventory. Absolutely insane. Same amount of sales as condos, but with half the listings. This is 100% a seller's market, okay? Lower than Toronto standards. This segment of the market is what's pushing the average price up more and more because it's a more expensive asset than a condo. With so much demand, this is why I think the average price in Toronto will break $1 million by the end of the year. Now, Trev has broken down the areas of Toronto to 3 segments, East, Central, and West. I'll put them on the screen for you here. You can see that there are pockets in Toronto, specifically at East End, where the months of inventory is less than 1. Less than 1. This means that there are more sales than there are actual listings. I mean, there's more stuff, there's not enough stuff for you to buy. Crazy. This is why prices keep increasing, because there's no inventory coming to the market. It means we have nothing to buy. Freeholds are absolutely on a tear right now. Insane. We're seeing the exact same thing in 905 in the GTA in the cities such as Oshawa, Ajax, Pickering, Hamilton, Milton, because everyone is trying to leave the city and get a backyard. So those 905 areas I listed above are less expensive than areas that you're probably more familiar with, such as Markham, Vaughan, Mississauga, and Brampton, because the first few set of cities I told you, you can get a detached for less than $1 million. So in those pockets, we're easily seeing months of inventory less than 0.5. Less than 0.5, which is absolutely bonkers, which is crazier than 2017, okay? So, as a whole right now, summarizing it for you, where the market is right now is the buyer psychology is, I want more space, I think I'll be working from home forever, and I'm willing to trade my smaller Toronto home for something bigger. Whether that's upgrading to like a larger Toronto freehold or moving further where you can afford a larger home, but just farther, right? That's kind of the mindset of the buyer psychology right now. I just believe that the entire pandemic has expedited this movement to the affordable suburbs much, much faster, and we'll continue to see this trend until a vaccine happens. Now, we may even see this trend expedited some more if we get that inevitable second wave of COVID that's coming in the next few weeks, right? So $1 million average price by the end of the year? Yeah, I think so. So if you're looking to make a move in this somewhat confusing but very hot real estate market, make sure you hire us so that we can tell you exactly how to navigate it, because there's no one size fit all for the statements of any particular neighborhood in Toronto, okay? I'll leave my contacts on the screen for you guys. If you guys want to reach out, make sure you stay safe. Until next time, your move, your future. Now that you're done watching this one, how about this one? Oh, you know what? This one's good too. Ooh, this one's really good. You know what? Just watch them both.